How's it going? Welcome back to DylanPickups.com. So today I want to talk to you real quickly about something I've seen on the internet a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and that is, does it matter whether you wax pot your pickups or not? And what does it do to the tone? Okay, we have a couple other videos on our YouTube channel that discuss specifically feedback and why we need to wax pot a pickup. Very briefly though, I'll use two pickup examples of why we do. One is a Telecaster pickup. Obviously this metal plate that is on the bottom here, you can reach the resonant frequency of this plate and the thing causes a squeal. I mean, that's basically what happens, right? So if you have wax between here and the bobbin, it will dampen that problem and it will make it to where it doesn't squeal. Same thing with a Telecaster neck pickup. This cover does the same thing. It will start to vibrate. You'll find some kind of frequency that it likes to vibrate at, and it will cause a squeal. Okay, and when we wax pot them, it dampens that from happening, and it doesn't squeal anymore. It's as simple as that. However, is it as simple when we think about does it change the sound of the pickup? There have been people saying on the internet the last few weeks that it does not change it at all. Well, let's talk about the three main measurements of data that we use to establish the tone of a pickup. Okay, the one that we hear all the time is the DC resistance, right? So 10K, 8K, 7.6K. We're not going to use that number today, because that number is a fixed number already when we get to the point of wax potting the pickup, right? The winding is already done. So if there is 5,000 winds on a bobbin with 42 gauge wire, whatever it is, doesn't matter. That number is set. It cannot change, okay? So we will not use that number in any of our discussions today. The numbers we will use are the inductance measurement of the pickup, which is expressed to us in henries, okay? And we see this on many websites, okay? So that is almost the, if you want to just, a real basic way to say it is the effectiveness, the efficiency of the coil to induce voltage. Now, we're speaking specifically of the coil itself. When, excuse me, technically it cannot induce voltage, or it can't work just as a coil by itself. It needs a magnet. But we're speaking specifically today about the efficiency of the coil to do its work when the magnetic field is present. Okay. Now, the other measurement that we almost never see on pickup measurements is the capacitance. And the reason the reason we need to think about this measurement is because it affects how a pickup sounds, big time. What are these two measurements? Okay, henries, obviously efficiency of the coil. Capacitance is anytime we take two conductors and we lay them next to each other, they will kind of want to talk to each other and they'll want to steal things from each other. Usually it's the highest of frequencies, okay? That's how a capacitor works, and that's what makes your tone knob on your guitar, is you have two plates of steel at a given distance apart with a particular material in the middle. That material in the middle has something called a dielectric efficiency. And what that means is it has the ability to insulate those two plates from each other to a particular value, and that's what makes it a capacitor. The thing is that every insulation has a dielectric efficiency. So the purple wire, that is the PE wire, the poly wire, there is heavy form var, various thicknesses. All those things have what is called a dielectric efficiency. They also have thicknesses. So what this means is the thickness of that insulation determines how far apart the wires are. The type and thickness of the insulation determines how easy it is for one wire to steal frequencies from the other, causing capacitance. A high capacitance pickup is usually going to have less highs present relative to a lower capacitance pickup. A lower Henry's pickup with lower inductance is going to be more or less, its efficiency is going to be lower. And let me show you how that happens. So if we look at our pickup, and we're going to express our pickup as 3 wires because we don't want to make 10,000 on this piece of paper. When they are laying next to each other in that coil, that's pretty efficient as far as the Henrys are concerned. Now the interesting thing is, the neater they are in there, the more efficient that pickup is going to be, and the higher number of Henrys, the higher the inductance of the pickup is going to be. Not as a rule, but pretty much. We'll just say it for our purpose of our conversation. Now, the capacitance, however, also rises, and that is a bad thing, because when we have a very nice, neat set of wires laying next to each other, it is the highest potential for these wires to steal frequencies from each other and steal highs and change the tone of your pickup. So, we know that if we lay them in there kind of messy, right, like this, a little bit, then our Henrys will fall, our inductance efficiency will fall, and our capacitance will also fall. So, if we affect either of these two numbers in a pickup, the tone of the pickup will change. How does that relate then to wax potting? Well, let's go ahead and again draw our 3 wires that are representing our entire coil. And there they are, and they're just fine. Now what happens when we dip a coil in wax? Wax goes in between each of the windings, okay? As the wax cools, the liquid becomes a solid, and the size of that said liquid gets bigger, okay? This is really easy to see. It's when you drip a candle on a table, it looks like it's going to lay at a certain measurement, and when it solidifies, it's larger. And maybe not to your sight, but when you measure it, it is larger. And here's what happens. If we go back to our 3 windings, so now we have 3 windings that are pushed apart. So what happens? The capacitance falls, and the efficiency of the pickup, the inductance, also falls. How do I know this? Because this is an experiment as a result of things I've seen on the internet over the last couple days that I tried to do. I used a bass pickup. I used a jazz bass pickup. And the reason I did that is because it would exaggerate the numbers a little bit because it's so long. So you have a long span of coil that would be easy to move if this were the case. Now here's something very, very interesting. I measured the capacitance and the inductance of the coil before I wax potted it. I then wax potted it for my normal amount of time, my normal procedure. And as soon as I pulled it out of the hot wax, I measured it. There was little to no difference in the measurements. I mean, my meter could barely, you know, I would say in the margin of error that there was no difference when the pickup was hot. I checked it twice again over the next 45 minutes, and as it cooled to room temperature, an interesting thing happened. Both the inductance, the efficiency of the coil, and the capacitance fell. Why is that? Well, if we go back to our drawing, when we push these wires apart from each other, like this, they will be less likely to crosstalk and steal frequencies from each other, thus our capacitance will fall. Also, the efficiency of our coil is less consistent, if you will, and the inductance will also fall. The interesting thing though is that is not necessarily a bad thing, because as our capacitance falls, our highs come back. So it sounds better, more or less, depending on if that's what you're going for or not. And also, the inductance number isn't a bad thing if it falls. It's just a matter of that's what the tone is. So, by the math, yes, it does affect your tone. Here's another thing that you need to think about also. Coils are always moving. When we play our guitar, everything is vibrating. This can be borne out in the fact that an old pickup will actually, quote unquote, go bad or wear out. It's because, usually, because of vibration, most of the time in an unpotted pickup, because of the vibration in the coil, the insulation will wear on each other, and then all of a sudden it will short out and it will cause it to quit. So we know that there's motion in the coil. This means that a coil that is not moving at all, say potted in epoxy or wax, is actually pretty hard. Depending, people have things about beeswax versus paraffin and all this kind of stuff. We won't get into all that right now, but the hardness of it affects how much that coil can move around while you're playing. Okay? So again, the efficiency of the coil is being affected based on how much that stuff moves. And you know, we know that the coil has more freedom to move around, and you can hear that in the tone if it moves towards feedback more easily. And you know, on the secondary side, when we start introducing other frequencies, it can do some very cool things. That's one of the reasons why we don't pot this pickup. We dampen it with wax underneath here, and then we don't pot the coil, and this pickup sounds different than one that's fully potted. My name is Dylan. This is Dylan Pickups. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or any comments, please leave them below. You can check us out on Facebook. You can check us out on YouTube and all the other places on the interwebs at Dylan Pickups. Thank you, and I hope to see you again next time.